Hi, and welcome to this week's episode hosted by Gray and Mark Lawson, John's Health and Fitness, and Mark Elm of Leeds Beckett University, where we take training theory and science onto the gym floor.
Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Yorkshire Fitness Podcast. Today's podcast we are going to be talking about exercise, what would we call it, how do we describe it? Exercise choices, different...
Variety. Exercise variety, maybe?
Exercise variety, yeah. So it happens, we've just been discussing a little bit, haven't we, fellas, before we come on air. People's goals initially, that's kind of what kickstarts exercise choices, what exercises suit what members, what clients, and it's generally goal setting, and we'll come up with a program as to what exercise we'll be doing. So Mark, we've just been talking about your goal of a double bodyweight back squat. Yep. Obviously, you need to hammer your back squat.
Yep.
And exercises which will in turn help that muscle group, which will therefore help your back squat in long term to help you get to that double bodyweight. We get lots of different goals coming here, don't we? As a gym, weight loss, body composition improvements, help with running economy, you know, like kind of people who enjoy running as their hobby, they want to get better at running. So we have a massive variety of different goals, and so it'll be really good to just have a chat about how we put programs together and exercise choices.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, so
and then how our training changed, I suppose, isn't it? Ours was totally, you know, like we train totally different to you.
Absolutely.
Because you're very dull and boring with your training. You know, like whereas
we're so exciting.
Whereas we like a bit of variety. But saying all that, we work on the same things, but we just might do variations of it. Whereas you're quite like in it. Whereas we've just been on about now. We've been working on before Christmas. We were working on as Bulgarian split squat. Now we're doing reverse lunges. Big deal. But you know, it's a little bit of variety. We keep, you know, change it. You know, every few weeks we'll just change what we're doing. But we do always have a little bit of a goal in mind, like, right, let's go and work and improve on this area for a few weeks and let's see where we go. And then mix it up again.
And that's really, again, your goal is never a set goal for the same amount of time. You never have. All your goals are always different, aren't they? So that's why it kind of, I suppose that reflects you as well. You kind of don't like doing the same things all the time. So you kind of flip from one type of goal to the next because that's Whereas I would say more focused on a specific outcome, not boring. I would put it. So your programs have a lack of attention span.
We get somewhere and we move on. So talk to us a little bit then, Helm, about the physiology behind, you know, like behind the different types of why you do eat both.
Right. So it's really quite challenging, this one, because I'm going to start to get into really interesting biomechanics and stuff like that. So I will, again, I say every single week, don't I? I apologise in advance for the deep end, but I'll try my best not to.
I'm just going to stop you there. So
I didn't even start yet. I'm not starting yet.
No, but I'm going to stop you straight away. Somebody suggested that we ought to have a buzzer for you. And every so often just go, right. Just cut it there. You've gone too far with it. We'll reel it back and then we'll go back into it.
We need a new buzzer every week. One out. Right. So we basically tried to think about 3 different kind of case studies, didn't we? As a way of describing this. So I'll try to think about a case study based approach, and that might keep me on track a little bit and stop me coming off on the tangents. So we've got different clients. We've got one client we thought about who was trying to get better at running. Somebody who's trying to get better at managing back pain, and somebody who's trying to get better at just effectively just being long-term general longevity and health and being better all around. Okay, so my answer about whether exercise choice makes a difference is different for each of those 3 people because the goals are very different. So in terms of the runner, does exercise choice make a difference? Yes, absolutely makes a massive difference. This probably speaks to me as a strength and conditioning coach more than it does the other 2 people. Because what I want to talk about is about the transfer from one form of training to the next. So in the world of S&C, we all talk about the SAID principle, specific adaptation to impose demand. So the act of running has certain demands on the body, And there's some physiological stuff about kind of generative energy, carbon dioxide, oxygen production, all that kind of internal metabolism type of stuff that we've talked about the last couple of weeks. But you're going to put some force at the ground, it's going to push you over the ground, and the more force you're going to apply in the shorter space of time, the faster you can run. So I need to do exercises that will directly impact on someone's ability to hit the ground with their foot, and that foot's going to push them forward in space. So if I don't pick exercises that will help that person do that, then I'm not going to be helping them. In fact, I'm probably going to be making them more tired, and potentially, depending on the way that I choose the exercises, bigger and slower. So it really does have a massive impact. So what I do, the way I pick exercise in the gym has a massive impact on their ongoing performance. So yes, that definitely does. Now, that person has a very specific outcome. Like you said, that with my training, I'm trying to achieve a double body weight squat. So if I'm not doing a body weight squat, a back squat, then I'm definitely not going to have the same impact on my own outcomes, my goals, because I'm not doing the thing that's going to transfer the most. Now let's take the last of your clients there. So I'm trying to think of the name that we put next to that one. Gav. Gav, who wants to do basically actively age, for want of a better way.
Perfect. Yeah. He likes running. He likes just. He's got children who are a little bit old, like sort of teenage years, and he wants to be as fit and active as possible and healthy for as long as possible. No specific goal, just fit. But he feels much stronger. He actually quoted us the other day when we were chatting to him and training. He said he's been training now with us for a year. So Mark trains him. And he's been training, he's been a member now for a year, but he said he feels 5 years younger than he did when he started here.
Well, that's really quite important. I mean, that's probably how that person measures their fitness. So like, what does fitness mean to you is really kind of what we're asking here. What does fitness mean to you? So is that how fast I can run, or how far I can run, or how well do I feel? Now, in that, how well do I feel kind of space, there's no specific task or outcome or goal or measurement that I can say, this is me being fit. It's like, just, do I feel fitter? Do I feel stronger? Do I feel better in everything that I do? So is it going up and down stairs? Is it picking up the kids? Is it camera shopping? Is it, you're trying to get out of a car and you kind of like, you feel your hips creak? Like, all of that stuff is life. And therefore there's no one exercise that we can say is better or worse at that. In fact, what you do need to do is as many different types of exercise as you possibly can, and get as strong in as many, many different ways as you possibly can to be better at that. So in that sense, does exercise choice really matter? Not as long as you're doing as many as you can.
Yeah, no, as long as you're doing everything the right kind of, as many exercises done correctly. You bang on, spot on.
And we have another kind of client group, which is that kind of weight loss, body composition kind of goal, which is to lose body fat. We'll not get into kind of appearance purposes, but basically kind of have less body fat. I've got too much, I want less, kind of. And in that respect, no, it doesn't matter. What you are doing is, from a resistance training point of view, so we're not going to get into just yet the cardio side of things, just from a resistance training point of view, as long as you're working your muscles and you're burning some calories in that process. But effectively, if you eat less food and eat more quality food, also improve the quality of the food that you do eat, is probably a better way of saying that, and do a broad base of exercises. Again, it doesn't really matter as long as you're doing as many as possible, as often as possible. So it depends on how specific the goal is. If you have a very specific goal, then yes, the choice of exercise massively matters. If your exercise goal is very general, then no, it does not. The other kind of part of that was, does it matter how frequently you change your choice of exercise? Now, this is where we're probably going to be loggerheads, because I've got my science answer and you'll probably have a personal enjoyment answer. And not better than the other.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we fall into both there, mate, because I think what you find is that with like a lot of clients, once they get into it, I think initially, obviously they've got to learn movement sometimes, aren't they? They're starting from scratch, and you add a bit of variety and you get them going with it. But then we always find then that people start getting more of a specific goal. they'll find an exercise maybe that, you know, like, so it might be a deadlift that all of a sudden they said, you know what, I want to get stronger on that. And you will throw, you know, like, and you keep it in for a while, you set them a little target and you'll do it. And, you know, like you explain to them that the only way of getting better in that one exercise or to get stronger is to repeat, you know, like, so you need to repeat the training, you know, like, and your variation comes from pushing yourself to increase the weight or the reps or, you know, like change it. You don't expect a different workout every time because you just end up a little bit all over the place and you don't see that progression. And I think a lot of people, they like to see that when they get into it, they like to see it. So we are we're closer than what you think, but we're not as dull as squatting every day. Do you know what I mean? So like,
that's a really interesting. What I would say there is you got two kinds of mentalities during the session. The outcome, which is, do I get better at this thing that I'm trying to do? Yeah. And then the process, which is, do I enjoy the process of going through the exercise? If you're only bothered about the process, like, do I enjoy doing the session that I'm doing? And you're less bothered about getting stronger doing it. You just know that doing it is enough. If I took up and did the weights today, I'm going to be healthier than if I didn't do it. And if I did the same weight for the next 6 weeks, it doesn't matter because just simply turning up and doing the session is all that it takes me to be healthier. There are some people like that. And again, I have to remind myself that there are some people but that isn't me. And therefore I don't always appreciate that as well. But people like me who are a little bit focused, well, is a nice way of saying it. Yeah. About getting stronger or better at a specific exercise, then it is about the progression. And sometimes you're going to go and do those sessions where you don't enjoy doing it. But it's about kind of accumulating enough sessions in a row that you get that progress and knowing the fact that you'll have peaks and troughs along the way. Some weeks will be worse, some weeks will be better, but a longer period of time, you're going to get better. But if you're not bothered about the outcome and you're only bothered about the process of doing it, you're going to tolerate those down weeks a lot worse. You're not going to enjoy those down weeks. And therefore that might be a driver to do something else that day. I don't feel like that today. I'm going to do something else instead. Now, depending on which goal you've got, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. Because if your goal is to be healthier and just turn up and the goal is to keep turning up and just keep turning up, then it doesn't matter what you do that day. As long as you do something, it's okay. But if your goal is to get better at it, it's finding a way to get through it on that particular day. So does it matter if you change exercising every day? Well, it depends if you've got an outcome in mind or not.
Yeah, it's totally personal, isn't it? It is down to. It's funny you say that. We're in one of his 8-week inch loss programs, which I know we've spoken about a few times when we've been talking, you know, like as different membership packages. One at Lasses, one at Ladies who joined recently after Christmas. Her goal at the beginning, we always set new goals at the beginning of every 8 week, and then it's quite a definitive time in it. At the end of 8 week, where do we want to be? We set a mid goal and an end goal. It's quite easy to measure because we know when the program ends. And her goal was just to complete 3 training sessions a week for 8 weeks. She didn't care about improving at anything. She didn't want to lose weight. She didn't want to feel anymore. That was her first block. It was, my goal is to create a habit of training 3 times a week. And guess what?
We nearly got that episode there without a habit mentioned, but we got there.
It always comes in, doesn't it? Yeah. And then guess what? The following 8-week block, signed back up for it, and then the goals started coming then. It's like, right, I've got it now. I'm training 3 times a week. Now I can look at reducing my waist circumference, or I want to get stronger at that exercise. And it's worked really well. But that's how general they can be sometimes. But you need something in mind, don't you?
Yeah. And it doesn't matter what that thing is, as long as that thing's enough to drive you to keep on doing the thing that you get better at. So, yeah, like I say, for some people, just turning up 3 times a week is not the thing that's going to light the fire. It's not going to get them going, but they need to get right. And it's sometimes it's being the best version of yourself. So I started deadlifting 100 kilos. I want to get to 120, 130. Some people are a bit ego based, and it's not a criticism at all. It's just the way that we are. And they see, well, they're doing 120 over there. I want to do 125. And when that person goes up again, they kind of move their goal again because they always want to be better than the next person or lifting more than the next person. Again, that's absolutely fine. There's plenty of people like that around. So again, it's about finding the thing that keeps you going. So then in terms of like, how do you pick a particular exercise that gets you where you want to be? Are all exercises born equal? Like, which are better, which are worse, and are there such things as a bad exercise? Yes, they're called skull crushers.
I love them.
It's called a skull crusher for a start. Let's start there.
I'm only kidding. I don't love them.
Tricep kickbacks. Oh, anyway, so depending on the goal, yes, there are definitely exercises that are not beneficial for you, and there are some exercises that are going to be more beneficial for you. But so yeah, like picking the right exercises for you and what you want to do, and that's where actually picking the right trainer who knows what it is that can break down the actual goal that you need to get, and know how to pick exercise that match to that. So running's a really good clear one, because everybody, or lots of people have a running based goal. In terms of even like the health and fitness client, like so we keep saying it now, winter, spring, and running seasons around there. You did the 10K this week, Wakefield 10K this week.
Yeah.
I have
very good day.
Haley ran it as well, so very proud of her. She did a personal best time this weekend.
What did she do?
49:09.
Wow, she did awesome, mate. I saw it. Yeah, really good that.
And absolutely nothing to do with me either, so I can say that in hand on heart. Yeah, so all I'm working, completely ignoring everything that I ever say. So that's nice.
I messaged you just before asking if she'd listen to the carb episode to get some carbing up, and she told me what she'd been eating. Like good pre-run diet there.
Yeah.
I won't say what it was.
There's definitely plenty of carbohydrates consumed to fuel that run. Yeah, which is why she got these. Anyway, last talk. What was I saying? Oh, so running based goal. So if you want to do something where running, I will look from a biomechanics point of view, going, what does this person need to be able to do, and what force they need to be able to produce, and what range of movement do we need to have? And then go about these exercises will transfer. The most specific thing anybody could ever do is the thing itself. But thankfully, for people like me as S&C coaches, there are other things that will transfer more or less. So my job as an S&C coach is always, I can't reproduce the sport itself, but I can reproduce parts of that and improve that through different exercise choices. And it's usually squatting, thank God. Usually. Of various descriptions, not always back squat. There are some rear foot split squats, and some front squats, and some overhead squats. But yeah, we always find a good way to get squatting in.
Always there. Ends in squat.
I need that should be a t-shirt. I need a t-shirt for squatting. But the evidence suggests it. So who am I to argue against the evidence?
Yeah.
But like if you want to try and get better overhead pressing and pushing something overhead, doing lots of pulling down is not necessarily going to transfer to that. So it's understanding which exercises translate and increase performance or prevent injury, either or, and which ones don't really have anything at all, and which ones are really counterproductive. So you got to know your exercise choice, you got to know your biomechanics, know your physiology, and be able to say, these are the exercises. And some generally transfer, and some specifically transfer. And it's knowing about where to pick that one. The other thing I'd say, and we're getting into some real nice S&C type stuff here, is you can't do the same thing constantly without getting broken down. He says that having done the same program for 3 months straight. So I'm kind of a bit hypocritical there. But there's eventually a law of diminishing returns. You don't get the same return back. So you do have to change periodically. But you have to give yourself time to get better at that exercise, to see your improvement, to see the transfer to performance, and then move on. So you kind of have to give it a bit of a chance. And typically in the first 4 weeks, it's all nervous system adaptation. So you get basically your brain gets better at using the raw products that you've got. And the next 4 to 6 weeks, it's actual the raw products, the muscle tissue itself improving. But in the first 4 weeks, it's basically your brain and your body being better connected to each other. And that takes about 4 weeks to kind of pan out. So if you change every week, you never really get better at anything. You get busy, you get burning, and there are some benefits to that. And you might argue, actually, life is very chaotic and therefore training should be chaotic. But in terms of seeing progress, if progress is important to you in the gym, you need to do something for around about 4 to 6 weeks to really see a meaningful change in getting better at it. It's about right. So that'd be my
I'd say yeah. It's probably
if you're not bothered about seeing the weight go up in the gym or moving the weight faster in the gym, if that doesn't drive you, then that's less important.
No, I agree, but I do think most people they do buy into it. Then eventually, don't they? That,
Yeah.
You know, like initially, I think they just expect every session is going to be different. But when you explain why that it isn't, you know, like it's your periodization, isn't it? But you know, like just in a different term for different people see some improvements, and one of them will change it up, and then let's look at something different. So yeah, it's yeah.
I think as long as they understand,
As long as if they don't buy into it, then but at the end of the day, you're doing whatever suits them, aren't you?
Yeah.
In respect to what we do, if you're doing an S&C, if you're training a team, and we're just going to do something different every week, you're not going to do that, are you? They've just got to buy into they've just got to do what you're doing. If you've got somebody coming for their own little goals and they just want to train and they say I want variety every week, then you know, like you can explain to them the difference. But if they just say it just don't work for me, then you make it a little bit different every week. But it doesn't have to be dramatically different. We're on about before, weren't we? You could be doing Bulgarians one week, split squat one week. You could be doing a walking lunge, a reverse lunge, you know, like so. There's loads of little varieties to each thing.
Yeah,
but still helping you progress in them areas.
And just that little kind of sequence of examples you gave there, there's some commonality between all those three things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
you generally get a little bit better. So when you came back around to do Bulgarians again, you would be a bit better because one will transfer to the other, but you just won't be as better as if you've done it 3 weeks straight.
Yeah,
I think what happens is people who just don't like resistance training, for example, would hate everything. So therefore, you kind of have to change things every week. But what will happen is they'll start to kind of pick up on, I quite like that one. Can we do this one again? I think by the time you've done like 6 weeks of changing exercises constantly, you probably get to a point where they've picked 10 exercises they don't mind. So these ones, the ones they probably feel best at, most competent doing. So we'll stick to those ones. But again, it depends on again going back to that goals and personality. If you get those two, but if you want to be good at a specific thing, you have to buy into doing that specific thing to get better at it, or exercises like that. We haven't really talked about the cardio side of things. It's probably worth dipping into that as well, because we've been kind of weight training quite heavy there. So the idea of like cross training. So like I say, if you're just doing the 10K run, I am definitely somebody that can't run every day. Can't do it. Don't want to do it. That's another issue altogether, but can't run every day. So if I wanted to get better at running, and this is what I did in lockdown, is bike run. Because I couldn't run every day, but the bike. So the idea of cross training, we have some what we call the general benefits of cycling would transfer into improvements in running, and vice versa. But again, the same principles apply. You're not going to get as good as running from cycling as you would do just by running. But can you do that thing all of the time without breaking down? So there is the idea of cross training does transfer from resistance training, but also in the cardio side of things as well. Things like running are really hard on joints. Like it's high impact because you're hitting the ground all the time. So it might be quite beneficial to swap things out. So like cycling, elliptical trainer, ski erg, not as much because you're using your upper body as opposed to lower body. But again, depending on what you're trying to do, rower to a lesser degree because you do have some lower body and some upper body. So again, it depends how similar they are.
You've still got Matt Elm. You've still got the when you talk about the specific crossover and the general crossover. You've still got from doing your general aerobic capacity work on the ski erg and the rowing machine. Let's say the more efficient you can get your aerobic system, you've still got that you've still got that little bit of crossover to help people with their running, haven't you? The more efficient you are of there, so. Absolutely,
yeah. So I would talk about adaptation. Again, you might need the buzzer here. Peripheral and central adaptation. So what I mean by that is, central is anything basically in the middle of the body. So you got your heart, your lungs, your brain, spine, blood volume, all your blood, that kind of stuff. And peripheral will be the muscles themselves, really. So if I went on the rowing machine, I'd be challenging my lungs. So hopefully the idea of my capacity to pull in oxygen, pull in air, get oxygen out of the air into the blood, all that kind of general central stuff, that's still going to get better. The muscles that I use are still going to get better. The difference is that I might not be using the same muscles as I would do from, say, from rowing to running. I'm not going to be using the same muscles, so I'm not going to get that peripheral, that outside adaptation that we do. I'm getting the central, but not the outside stuff. And I'm also not getting the same way of moving improved. So it becomes like you mentioned there at the beginning, Mark, exercise economy and efficiency.
Yeah.
So that basically means I can run at the same speed, but as I get better, I use less and less energy to do so. So in theory, I could get fitter. You don't always have to get faster, but you use less energy to keep the same speed. So I could potentially get more aerobic capacity, but I don't always have the ability to use it because those muscles are becoming more skilled at running from the rowing machine. I might have more blood volume, more blood cells, increased lung capacity, more mitochondria. I just don't have the skill to execute the movement as well as I might do. So if you did running and that, you'd like to see you get both benefits, and you'll start to get understanding where the kind of balance point is between how much running you can do without breaking down and how much of the other stuff you can do that will help you get better at that. Is that do we need a buzzer moment now?
No, you're right. You haven't been going on too long, mate. No, it's just making sure people make sense of it. I think that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, cross training is a commonly accepted way of training in elite sport, and I think a lot of people do it and don't realize they're doing it. But I keep saying running. I think running community is definitely the worst for it because runners run.
Yeah. Well, I'll just for an example. So just going on to that. So we've had a few people who train here who've gone to do marathons. Then, like they've signed up to a marathon. So they might have come to classes. It's mainly the class members who've done that, innit?
Yeah.
So the class members, they come to so many classes a week and they do it constantly. They get to a decent fitness level, they're quite strong. And they go on. And then they sign up for a marathon. They start following an online training program, give up all the gym type of stuff and just concentrate on running, and then end up getting injured.
Yeah.
Whereas, because they think, well, no, I've got to run. It's got to be as specific as running. They've got to run all the time. They've got to follow this program. Knocking one or two in effect, in it. You're doing something different.
Yeah.
You're still getting your cardio work. You're doing a bit of strength work. You're not running as much, so you're taking the load off the joints or certain. Like it might be just somebody who just the knee, the repetition of it, and they end up They end up injured and say, if I did it again, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd have stuck to doing a gym set, a class a week or 2 classes a week and do it. But I can see why they get railroaded into. If you're running a marathon, you're thinking, I'm just going to be out there running.
Yeah.
How am I going to get better at running if I don't go out and run? But I just think if you listen, unless you're a marathon runner, unless you are off competing at Olympics, keep it general, and then just dip into what you're aiming for. When we did 24-hour challenge, I was talking to a client yesterday, a new client. So our goals change constantly, because we just make stuff up. But when we were training for that 24-hour challenge, we still didn't do loads of it, but we just started throwing on. We were getting on that skier or on that rower or on bike or whatever. And we were doing good, like repeated 30-minute intervals, like 30 minutes there, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes there, and doing it. Usually, your head would go on that. You'd be thinking, I'm not doing that. Because you've got a goal in mind, you've got to do it. But we weren't doing that every session. We were still doing as general weight sessions or as general gym sessions how we train. We were just throwing them in to do it. And when it came to challenge, we were fine. Because we weren't out to break records. We weren't going out trying to be elite at it. We were just wanting to complete and being able to do it at somewhat like standard. So I think that's probably a runner's thing. But you're right, runners just want to run, don't they?
Yeah.
And I think, that's a long way around. Did I need a buzzer then?
Yeah, I think we should have a buzzer and just keep buzzing each other constantly. But if you speak to most people who are on that path from going from like the 5 to 10K runner, and they're going to make that leap from those 5 to 10K runs into halves and fulls, marathons, that is, sorry. The one thing you'll get is they struggle with increasing the capacity to do the distances, the long runs, the 90-minute to 2-hour runs. And it's the 2 to 3 days afterwards. Like, I just can't run, just can't do it. They're like, and you can see the mental anguish, the battle they've got between I have to run. I'm a runner. Runners run. We need to run. But the body going, you need to sit the fuck down. You need to not run. But if they replace that with a swim or a row or a bike, and and basically what I can hit my heart and lungs and blood volume and all the other central stuff, and then I'll translate that into running in a couple of days' time, you'd find that an easier process to manage.
Yeah.
It isn't as specific. I'm not going to pretend that it would be. I would love to be able to say that you can squat your way to a marathon. I know that's not true. Am I going to try to test the theory? I am definitely not. But you can try this cross-training approach where you can look at other modes of training, knowing that it's not as specific, but you will have those transferences.
And you might not get injured.
Yeah, you're actually probably less likely to get injured. You increase your injury resilience.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that is a guaranteed way to get injured is overuse injuries by using the same tissues constantly with no variety. Absolutely guaranteed to get injured. So that's one of the things I kind of need to kind of realize is that if I keep back squatting for the next 12 years of my life, I'm probably going to give myself an injury. So who cares? I'll keep going. But if you have a more diverse exercise library, you can do more things more of the time, then you are less likely to get injured. And we get into the kind of recovery and stretching stuff about how you might put that in. But effectively, if you have a cross-training approach and a resistance training approach that goes with a running program, you will definitely be less at risk of an injury than by running alone.
Yeah.
And we've got 4 minutes left, so I think that's a really good place to start.
I was just going to say, let's just summarise it there. Then it's always nice. Let's just listen to Rach a little bit as an idea that she had, just about ending it with a little summary of like bullet points of what we've trying to been talking about, really.
So if you want to improve, if you want to see improvements and progression, you need to stick to the same ones for a period of time, around about 6 weeks, possibly 8 weeks, before changing it up. All right. If you just want variety and you just want to exercise, it doesn't really matter.
Nope.
It's goal specific, it's individual, it's personality specific, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
End of the day, it's goal specific, and overuse, trying to do the same things day on day is more likely to cause an injury.
Yeah, and just squat more.
And just
I can't let that go. I can't.
Or do an exercise that ends in squat.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Meet there, not squat. Yeah, I'll get it. We'll have that one. Right, class. Right, covered shitloads there. I would say covered quite a lot of stuff, but hopefully it's kind of understandable and people will see it as in what are people's goals. As long as people understand what their goal is and what they want to achieve, and that's how. But
if there's any questions for it,
same again.
Message us and we'll answer them if we haven't got into anything as specific as what we could have done, or we've gone too specific. Then let's go.
Cool.
Right.
All good. Right. Have a good afternoon, mate. We'll get back to
it, mate.
See you next time, boys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked the episode, we'd like you to share with us that on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter. You can listen again on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a rating and a review, and any comments would be more than appreciated. And hopefully you'll tune back next time for our next episode.